Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 118 of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah.
My name is Tyler.
And I don't know, is that how we do the ones with just you and I feel like we're about to introduce someone. I don't know how this thing works, but we got some fun stuff going on. We're trying some interesting things this month. And so as usual, let's sort of start it off as we usually do. How was your last month? What's been new in the world of Magic for you?
It was good. I did a gig yesterday, actually. That was a lot of fun. It was kind of intimidating on the way there, and then turned out to be a really relaxed, easy gig. I was booked to do a show for American Express, and going into their building was nerve-wracking as hell because it's a big fancy place, and I had to go through multiple security checks with ID and get scanned into places, and it was just like, I don't know if I'm the right person to be here right now. Like, these people are going to eat me alive. But they were lovely. They were really fun. At least the people that were willing to see my magic were really fun. Most people were just there on their lunch break and wanted to get their food and go back to their desks. So I was booked for 2 shows and two stand-up shows and 2 sessions of walk around, and I only ended up having to do 1 stand-up show and 2 sessions of walk around.
And how did the show go?
It went well. It took me a long time to win people over. They booked me during meals, and I was like, nobody should want to be performing during meals, but every performer was performing during meals because they were just cycling in and out hundreds of Amex employees while performances were happening. So even like, people were being pulled up from their chairs to do salsa lessons in the middle of their meals. I did a salsa lesson. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's fun.
But yeah, there was like 2 people who were really into magic, and we gave them we made a little fake front row instead of me just performing for the gala. I basically slightly pandered to other people and would ask a generic question to someone else and then be like, I don't care, the show's for these 2 people, and really pushed it for them, and that sort of made everybody kind of want to be part of it more. They were like, well, you know what, this is actually kind of cool. And then afterwards, once they saw me perform, they were very happy to see me during the walk around, so that was good.
You know, it also is just it's just fun experience. You just get to go and perform, and hopefully it was more enjoyable than it was stressful.
Oh yeah, for sure. I did some new stuff that I'd never tried before because I had to do stuff that was better on angles than I'm used to. I had about 80 degrees of hidden space. Despite the audience not being super into the entertainment, the event coordinator and the person who hired me to work for that coordinator were both very happy, and I got good reviews. So hopefully I'll get some more work through this company again.
Dope. That's good to hear.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I guess last month, June was fun. We had our second Art of Magic show, which went very well. It was with the Evasons and with Graham Reed. And that was just really cool because, first of all, the Evasons, people, they came into our world at the same time, we knew who they were, but we never really saw them perform, saw them on Fool Us. I heard amazing things about them from everyone, and you from their James Allen show, and then we got to interview them, and it's always funny. Although they're travel around the world, they're local. Yeah, they're relatively local, and we hadn't seen them, so it was just super cool to be able to feature them on a show, and they obviously knocked it out of the park. They're world class, so that was super cool. And also Graham Reed, he did a good job at Newest Trek and the open mic show. So then we had him perform at Art of Magic, and he was very good. I had 2 friends in from out of town that I'll probably talk about in a minute. And, they loved all the acts and whatever, but they said the person who they enjoyed the most was Graham. And I was like, it's interesting from the perspective of people that aren't necessarily these magicians or, because there's some magicians in the audience and who obviously go gaga for the Evasons. And, I hear a lot of comments about the show from magicians, in depth about who they loved best. So a lot of times the magicians love the Evasons. So it's cool to hear a non-magician say talk about how engaging he was and things like that. So that was cool. I thought he was fantastic.
How was the art side of things this time?
Yeah, so it was good. The art that we had up was very good. the way the space works, we moved back in the space. So we moved a little bit deeper, which means that we tripled the space of the art gallery. So we had spoken to him and we had said, like, if we can get a third of the art gallery space, the stuff that we had before, you can put up your amazing art in the rest. So the problem is that our art is local artists that we found who do paintings, which are beautiful, but they're like, $50 to $200-$300 things, where he's got $10,000 pieces of art, like these massive things, these beautiful, like gigantic paintings. So it made our magic themed art maybe not compare, but it was still really cool. And it was still awesome to feature like Nick Wallace's art and, Chris Minns, a local guy who we met, who has fantastic art. And, we stepped up what we're doing with our posters and we put them in big giant frames and it looked really good. I don't know if we're going to do it in the future for many reasons. One, like maybe we'll just hand him off the art and tell him to do all the art, because his was just so much more extravagant art because he's an art gallery, right? So he curates that stuff professionally. But we're learning, right? And even this art gallery was better than the first one. And the next one will be even better than this one, and so on and so on. So, the things that I'm talking about, rambling about, are the problems we had with it. But it was very good. Like the art gallery looked fantastic. But I'm just, on my mind are obviously the stuff that we learned and the stuff that changes next time. But yeah, the Art of Magic show was really cool. And then I started. I don't know how much I can talk about this, but I guess I'll talk about it a little bit. So I mentioned in the past that about that friend who I was teaching magic to online and how I got him to come in and I was doing a private show for him and some other big people in Toronto. So we did the show. It was fantastic. He loved it. And without giving too much details, because obviously not a lot of things are set in stone yet. It's just putting things into motion. But he wants to be producing my close-up show. So that close-up show might become a regular thing somewhere or a special thing somewhere that he's going to produce because he really loved the show. And we had Mayhew film it. And so that could be a really cool thing for me. And it's especially exciting, obviously, because that's the show I love to do most. And also, when you look at all of my magic abilities, or when I do, that's the one that I do best, right? I'm good at stage, but my close-up private show is the best thing I do without a question. Like, and right. I know that to be true. So it's just cool that, I never really thought of, or maybe I have thought of it, but I never really sort of put action into that being a show that people are invited to. So we'll see what happens. It's very cool. And I'll be excited to talk a little bit more about it as it progresses. And and the only other thing going on, I know there's a few things, but the only other thing going on is the camp tour, which has just begun. I went up to a camp a day ago or 2 days ago. And then I go up again on Sunday to a different camp. And then I'm just all over the place. July, I'm mostly gone. And with that, and we'll talk about this soon, but I'm going to do some interesting stuff with some podcast episodes, partially because there's some episodes that I want to feature that aren't necessarily having guests on, but just giving some advice that people are asking me specifically. Like I've been wondering, I'm like, when can I tell people about that? I'm like, oh yeah, I have a podcast.
Right.
And then, people ask me, I'm like, oh, should I make like a video? And then I'm like, what am I talking about? I'll just make an episode and help them. And so part of the reason why some of the episodes are going to be me talking about that stuff is because I want to express that. And then part of the reason is because I'm so gosh darn busy in July, and June was too hectic for us to get ahead of schedule. So It might take us another few weeks to get some other guests in the bank. So basically, if you're listening to this, you're up to date. There's no secrets. Yeah. We don't have any secret episodes. Oh, aside from the secret episode.
Oh, wow. That one we shouldn't talk about, at least for a little while.
If you're actually talking about the one that I'm talking about, the only recorded thing that we've never released, that'll never be released.
No, never.
No, that'll never be released. Okay, so enough jibber jabber about all of that. That's what's been going on. It's been very interesting, and I've been putting the final pieces together of the show that I'm doing this summer, the stage show, and it's cool because a year ago after the summer, so I guess 10 months ago, when I finished doing my show, I wrote a blog post, and I think I spoke about it in an episode about I did magic that I didn't really want to do.
Yeah.
Like I was doing magic that I didn't really like, and I was just doing it because that was the stuff that I knew how to do. So it's cool this year because now when I'm looking at the tricks and I'm looking at the show, obviously there's some things that it hasn't fulfilled. Like it's not the best show ever, and obviously I haven't even done it yet. But when I'm looking at it, I'm like, each of these things is something that I had a major hand in putting together.
Right.
Like I built these routines. These are things that I think I enjoy. I don't think I hate them. I think I like them, and most of that is thanks to Newest Trick.
Yeah.
Right. Most of that is thanks to being able to try new material on a weekly basis, so that I can learn how to do that. And I'm doing a new trick this summer, and I don't feel terribly nervous about it. It feels very comfortable to do a new trick. I did them 4 or 5 times a month, every month for however long, right?
Yeah. I had a similar experience sort of yesterday where I was trying some stuff I hadn't done before, but I felt more comfortable performing in front of 200 people and getting paid than I did performing, in front of 15 people for free. And I have no idea why. It was just because I was so used to having to do new stuff. And it was kind of like, this is something that I am confident will go well, and these people are viewing me as a professional. And like, I don't know, it was just really cool to be like, I'm going to prep everything completely new. I'm going to write a new script, and I'm just going to, go for it and have it, work out at a paying gig was a new experience for me.
Yeah, man, it's a super cool feeling to go pro. You know what? I'll talk about this because I said that I was going to mention earlier, but I sent out an email about 2 or 3 days ago that just said in it, basically like, answer me one question: what do you want to learn? Like, what do you want to learn? Because I just want to get a feeling for what it is that people are struggling with. And I basically got 2 different answers, which this will be no surprise because it's the premise of the podcast. But I got 2 answers. The first was people said, they're like, I know tricks. I want to know how to perform. And that came in any of 2 ways. It was either like how to structure an act, or it was along the lines of how do I write a script? So that was the one question. The second question is, how do I start to get gigs? How do I start to get bookings? So it's just very exciting that, these are the type of questions that are coming. Other people ask stuff. Some people are like, I want to know what books to read. Some people are like, how can I be like this guy? Some guy responded, he's like, I want to be on the podcast. Get me on the podcast. I'm like, sorry, dude.
Yeah. But nice. That's not how that works.
It's a good try, but
Actually, you know what? Like, if you're someone we want to interview and we haven't emailed you, if you're a real cool magician and you're cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's happened before where people have messaged me and I've been like, yeah, let's do it. This is, I'll give you a recipe. You start making videos. You make 10 videos about the favorite Discourse and Magic episodes, and you tag us. And at the end of every video, you're like, my ultimate dream is to be on the podcast. Like, we're going to notice you after episode 1 and 9 more, other people are going to watch you talking about the podcast. And then by episode 10, obviously I'll bring you on. You know what I mean? Like, it's so easy to, no, I'm not saying like worship me. There's other ways to do it. Like there's tons of ways to do it. It's like, but if you send me an email, you're like, hey, I really want to be on, like, I'm really good. And the angle that I have is being an amateur and not knowing a lot about magic and being in an area where a lot of people don't know a lot about magic. I'm like,
that was our game, was like, we're amateurs. We're going to start the podcast. We need the pros.
Right. So yeah. So there's a way to get on, basically, is what I'm saying. But I hope all of you don't start doing that, or do it. I don't care. Hopefully, if you're trying to impress me, it'll mean the podcast will grow. Yeah. So, and on the note of the podcast, it seems to be growing a bit. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. There's people listening in here.
Yeah, we're hitting puberty.
At stats. We're hitting podcast puberty. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Things are blooming. We crossed 100,000 downloads quite a while ago. We're heading towards 150, which we'll be at very shortly. And our next big thing is we'll have 10,000 downloads a month. That'll probably happen in a few months. We'll start there. Now we're in the 8 or 9,000 range a month. We'll hit 10,000 a month. So it's pretty cool. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's a lot of people listening to us jibber jabber. And it makes me think one of the cool things that actually is one of the things that I learned from a lot of the emails is people live in places where there's no magic. So for us, we're like, oh, we're just talking about magic, and we're just talking about our views and our opinions and what happens when you perform and and you know, our lives. But for people where they're the only magician in their area, like that's what a lot of people are looking for. That I got a message from someone, I wish I remembered who, but he was saying that like nobody in his magic community will talk about the deeper questions about magic, like the philosophical questions. They all look at him like he's crazy. And so you know, there are people that just get your gears turning about magic. You know, it's the same thing. Like we talk about conjurer community, Aaron Fisher's thing. Like if you live in Alaska or whatever, I just say that, but if you live where there's no magicians anywhere, conjure community is probably fantastic for you. You know, it's probably amazing for you to meet with other magicians and regularly, whatever.
Yeah.
I meet with fantastic magicians weekly, you know? So it's like, it's very hard for me to justify paying to meet with those magicians. I go to conventions, I go, So, I mean, it's an amazing program, but do you get what I mean?
Yeah, no. We live in a magic city and some people don't have any. So it makes sense for them to, you know, find a community online for that side of magic, the same way the person you mentioned who emailed you has to come to our podcast for this side of magic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And we thank you. And we thank you for coming to be a part of this. You know, one of the things that's super funny is, you know, we don't sell ad space. I know that people notice that we don't do it. You know, like people listen to more podcasts than this one. I know people notice.
Right.
But we don't do it because I want, it's authentic, right? And if I ever sell something, it's something that I authentically want people to be a part of, or I'm trying to help because I'm answering the questions that people have. You know, I'm like, what is it that you want to learn? And they tell me, and then I'll compile that info, right? So
something you authentically believe in and enjoy, like audible.com. No, okay.
That would have been the best lead into a product. Yeah. That would have been super funny if we pitched our first ad. What else is new? What have you been thinking about in terms of your approach to magic, what you have in mind? Maybe have you watched any? I recently watched some magic that made me very excited about magic.
I watched Miracle by Darren Brown.
Oh yeah, so did I.
It was good.
So did I on Netflix.
Yeah, it was real good.
Yeah, it was really good. I would say it's better than when I went to see his live show, Secret.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. And he was making fun of evangelical faith healing and stuff like that. But at the same time, his whole thing felt really preachy because of it. That was the only issue that I had. It was kind of cool to be like, this is what these people do, but he sort of took it to the extreme. I felt when he was like, throw your credit cards in and do this and do that. I was like, it would have been kind of cool if you just healed the people, you know?
Part of me agrees with you and says, why did you have to make your magic show political? And couldn't it just be impossible and miraculous?
But at the same time, you want to say something with your magic, and it's clearly something he's passionate
exactly.
about.
Like if you found a way to express your thoughts while doing impossible things in a way that actually gets the point across,
right?
You know, and it's not corny. Like it's not where like you do a trick and they're like, I did something impossible, so you could do something impossible with your own life. And it's the impossible thing that you did, you didn't really do. So what are you talking about, right? So like now, and obviously there's ways to phrase it that feel less like that. But if you have a way to express an idea to the world, but feels authentic and can make a point, that's amazing. You know, like what are we all trying to do but that?
Yep, for sure. There's a few moments in that show, in Miracle, where I was like, wow, he took a very simple concept and pushed it so far. Like the giving people the ability to read who couldn't read and taking away people's ability.
That was awesome.
I was like, wow, none of what you just did was difficult, and it is the most magical thing I think someone could feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Like
It was incredible.
To literally be like, no, I can't read that. I need my glasses. And then being like, I'm reading it. Like, what? Are you kidding me?
I encourage everybody to go watch that because, it also is a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of a deviation from the normal Darren Brown because he goes into that stuff.
Right.
The normal Darren Brown is very much exclusively the body language mentalism. Sort of thing, which he does a lot of in it, but I like the deviation. And it's interesting to me because, everyone's copying Darren Brown. The whole world right now is copying Darren Brown with the mentalism stuff. So the more that he changes, I don't know, maybe people change, like maybe. And I also wonder, I'm thinking a lot about it. I've been thinking a lot about how once it was very popular to do this big magic stuff, with boxes and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden Darren Brown came and Uri Geller and other people like that. And then this mentalism started being amazing. This pack small, plays big. I can read your body language, or I have a third eye or whatever, these senses. And then, so my question that I've been thinking about is A, what's the next thing? And B, why, aside from pack small plays big, is everyone so drawn to this? And while I know this sounds crazy, but is that right for this generation and time period? Like maybe there was a time where other types of magic were most fitting, but could it be that mentalism is the most appropriate thing for 2018, or is that just where the ebbs and flows are of magic and people are just copying the people they like, so there's a lot more metal? So those are the questions that I have about it. So I'm always thinking about who are the next people that are gonna, because when Criss Angel came, there was a little bit of a wave of the whole gothy stuff, but not as big of a wave as people being mentalists has been. Like, this is insane. Everyone is a mentalist now.
Well, yeah, but Criss Angel didn't really have a magic style. He had a physical, like a fashion style that people were following. Like his,
I guess that's an interesting.
You know what I mean?
Point.
Like, yes, he did stuff where he was, making demonic noises and breathing heavily and stuff.
But he also did card tricks on a bus.
Yeah, exactly. And he also like levitated, and he also did literally anything that would look good on camera, right? So I think at that point, you just got people who wore eyeliner and dyed their hair and then were like, I'll buy any trick that Theory 11 puts out. That's just a style of performance that anyone can fit to their character.
Everyone's character right now seems to be this Darren Brownian, Sherlockian, everyone is a freaking detective who can know the word that you thought of in a book. Everyone's mentality is just looking at your body language. The same doofus that had Cheeto fingers on his shirt, is like, I can read your body language. How many people in this world can tell what I'm thinking by analyzing the way that I moved and the way that I blinked? Like, obviously they're doing it as themselves in some light. Otherwise, particularly the people that are very successful, obviously they're doing a lot of their own stuff. Oz Perlman, they're doing a lot of their own magic as well as their own, personality, obviously. But I'm just saying, like, the amount of influence on this is interesting to me. I'm wondering, A, what's next, or B, I know this is a weird way to express it, but are they right? Or is that maybe most fitting for 2018? Is that why it's resonant with people? Do you see what I mean? Like, because there's a chance that it could be the best way right now.
You know what? I think that you're right. I think that this is why I think it is. Your mind is the only thing that's sacred anymore. It's the only thing that is bound to like set rules. There's innovation in everything. It's like there's always a new video on Instagram like, you've never seen a water bottle that can do this, and like shit is just changing. It's like the police officers in Dubai are going to ride hover bikes. Like, that's happening.
Oh,
like AI police officers are going to be 60 feet in the air going 40 miles an hour. Like, that's
right.
That's the world we live in. So who cares if a card can change color? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, because I feel that the same way that when I was a kid and someone, I remember vividly my cousin who wasn't a magician doing this trick where they would take a card and they would put it on the table, they would snap their fingers, it was a different card, and they would put it on the table. And I still don't really know how they were doing it, but I'm sure they were just switching it because I was a young, stupid kid and when I wasn't looking. But I remember the thoughts going through my mind was like, could this be a technological card? And then I was feeling it and I was like, but it's not. And I'm like, could they make that sort of thing? And that's that's what you want in your magic. Yeah. It's sort of like, could it be this? You're like, nah, that's crazy. But it's the only way. But, so I don't know that this being however many years later that people are like, no, it could be a tech card. Like, I don't know that it's actually different. Like, I don't know, like, if you do Triumph for someone, I don't think it's less impressive in 2018 than in 2010. Like, like.
It's not necessarily that it's not less impressive because it's less impossible. Or, like, it's not like they have this, like, he probably has some sort of method. It's just like they straight up do not care. Like their dopamine receptors don't fire for new information anymore the same way that they used to. I don't know. It's just a thought that I'm having in this sort of weird ethereal.
Yeah. Because you know what? I think you might be right that the rapid pace of innovation has an effect on the response to Magic, but it's super hard for me to think that Triumph is less impressive in 2018 than it would be in the 2000s. And if someone hears that clip out, which is probably not a good thing to clip out of this episode, we do the share with them. Someone hears it, they're gonna be like, what are these two lunatics talking about? But I think it's interesting to just question, even maybe if we've gone too deep, but if technology has an effect on how impressive certain magic is. I've been doing for a long time now, a year and a half or so, trying to do surreal stuff. Honestly, it's been a long time to find that word. Yeah. The way I used to explain it was very different, but I think surreal is the best way to explain it. And that's the stuff that's exciting to me, but I don't yet know if that's the stuff that's exciting to audiences. Sometimes I get good responses. Like I did a newest trick show where I just did 3 different tricks with potions and I got a good response to that because I think that it was like followable and interesting and whatever. But sometimes when I do my weird surreal crap, people think that I'm a crazy man and it doesn't really get the right responses,
Yeah. And I mean, for you, I mean, like with me, sometimes I'm like, okay, I need them to have some faith in me as a performer because my like chaotic everything's falling apart thing sometimes just looks like everything's falling apart. And even when it all comes together at the end, they're like, did it? I stopped paying attention when I realized he sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to tell you about this. This was cool. So I forgot that in June, I went to Chicago and Minneapolis.
Oh yeah. Did you go to the lounge?
So yeah. Oh yes, did I ever. Beautiful place. Absolutely unbelievable that is a reality. Like it's just absolutely unbelievable that is an actual place. Now I haven't been to the Magic Castle, but rumor has it obviously that feels very similar. But it was just really incredible. You go in the front, it's a laundromat. There was in one evening, there was 2 bar magicians, 6 or 7 walk around magicians for when you're waiting for the show to start, 2 magicians in the show. And then in the 654 club afterwards, there's another magician. So there was like 9 magicians in one night, which was just crazy. If compared to our shows that have the most magicians ever, it's like 7 people doing 10 minutes, instead of like, it was just so rich how much magic there was in different places and different areas. So that was very cool. And obviously big ups to Ryan Plunkett for hooking us up and giving Ben and I a place to crash that night. But it was really cool and a very cool magic store in Chicago. And then, and this was really the highlight of the trip, I have so much to talk about Minneapolis. So on the way to Minneapolis, Ben was like, you might want to bring some stuff to potentially do magic because in the show, they might potentially maybe want an opener and just bring stuff. So I was like, yeah, that's probably wise. So I brought stuff to potentially do a set. And then on the drive from Chicago to Minneapolis, I was like, could you imagine if, because the show is Sunday Night Magic, the one that Suzanne runs. And so I was like, could you imagine if she messages me and she's like, hey, I need you to do the show. Someone dropped out. And we're like, ha ha ha, that'd be so funny. Literally hours later, she messaged me. She's like, someone dropped out because there was like a death in the family and we need you to do the show. And I was like, she's like, how long can you do? I was like, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I just looked, I was like, I can do 20 minutes. And she was like, perfect. So I performed there and it was amazing. It was a great audience. It was such great energy. There was, I met a lot of cool people. There was some young kids there that I was able to chat with about magic, which is such a highlight for me. I don't know why. It was like someone in his teens. Maybe he was like 13 or 14. But shout out to you for being cool. And yeah, so I got to chat with him and teach him some cool stuff, which was great. There were some awesome people that were able to come by and say some kind words. I had somebody say maybe one of the best compliments I've ever heard about my performance, which I wish I could remember in the specific words, but he said that it was the one word that was exciting for me is he said that it was very inclusive. And I thought that was cool. You know, like I brought people on stage for potions. I brought people on stage to showcase their memory. You know, so it was very cool that he felt the giving of what I was trying to do, bringing people up there. So that was really cool. But it was a great show. Big ups to Suzanne for producing such an amazing show there in Minneapolis. And here's the part that is unbelievable. Okay. And remember that post on Instagram about Tony Chang, where he's like, where it's just a clip out and he's like, I'm not a magician, I'm a good magic critic.
Yeah.
Right. And it blew up and all these different people were commenting on it. This guy commented on some guy I didn't know. He's like, I'm not a doctor, but I'm a good patient critic. I can make any patient better. Some guy's like, some guy titled Pad Thai Reviews commented, I'm not Pad Thai, but I'm a good Pad Thai critic. I can make any Pad Thai better. No. And then this account, CJ the Banana, posted, I'm not a banana, but I'm a good banana critic. I can make any banana better. And I'm like, what in tarnation is going on? So anyways, that was very funny, but that was about 8 months ago. So I'm there, we're hanging out. And then these two guys who I'm hanging out with, who are about my age, they pull out CJ the Banana. And I'm like, oh my gosh, was it you? And they're like, actually, most of those were us. So this guy is CJ the Banana. He's Pad Thai Reviews. He's also his own account. So big shout outs to Noah and Chris for just being awesome and cool people to jam with. They showed me some really cool magic, some stuff that I'm still playing with. So big ups to those two guys. And yeah, it was just very, very, very cool and very funny. So that was very funny. So big ups to you two, and big ups to Suzanne for putting on such a great Sunday Night Magic.
Yeah, I'm sad I missed that. That sounds like it was a blast.
Yeah, it was a long road trip, which I did none of the driving on, which I actually can now. I have all my licenses. I just did a long driving trip to go up to a camp. I'm gonna do more this summer, but I didn't do it because I don't know why. I didn't want to. So Ben drove, and really, it was payback. It was payback for him because when he was younger, he would go on lecture tours and he would invite people on lecture tours, and then he would tell them that they had to drive, or he would bring someone else to be a driver.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Why are you here?"
Yeah.
And he'd be like, "I don't know. I organized it." So that was a little payback for him. But we'll be doing more road trips to places around the U.S., and I'll be doing more driving. And if you are living in the United States and you think that I should maybe come lecture in your city, then you should send me a message, because that is something that I might very well be doing much more of, as in start doing. So that should be, I wanted to give a shout out to James Allen for sending me the links to the Magicana. Tamariz had a show called Chun Tata Chun, I believe. So, but that there's the show, and Magicana put like lots of clips of different magicians performing on that show up on the Magicana website. So it's like magicana.ca/Tamariz, something like that. But there's tons of videos of amazing performers, and it's all in Spanish. But there's amazing performers like Finn John and Gaetan Bloom and David Williamson doing performances. David Williamson, he doesn't talk much because you know, he doesn't say much in English because it's all in Spanish. But it's still an amazing performance. Finn John's performance are like miracles. And then Gaetan Bloom, man, that guy he's right. His magic is right up my alley because it's surreal. It's so surreal. Everything is just, it's surreal and hilarious. And he does a trick that I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna try to play with it and make it my own. But he does like a signed like silk that goes into a baguette. Like, just think about the ludicrousness of that sentence.
Right.
Assign silk to a baguette. But it's so beautifully performed. It was so amazing and just cool. You rip open the baguette and the inside is like the sign. It doesn't need to be the silk, but I just thought it was cool. And everything, he had so many performances of classics and of his own stuff and of some stuff with eggs, and just, it was all amazing. So shout outs to James Allen, to Magic Hannah, and of course to Gaetan Bloom for the amazing magic. And I highly recommend people go check that out. Even if you don't speak Spanish, just go look through all the people. There'll be names you know, and just watch them. Some of the acts are silent, some are just, it doesn't matter that you don't speak the language. Like, you can figure it out. You can figure out what they're saying, and even if you can't, watch the amazing magic. Big ups to that, and I highly encourage people go watch it. Specifically Gaetan Bloom's magic. And I think about that, and I think about the conversation that we were having a minute ago about like mentalism stuff, and I'm like, do we just need another Gaetan Bloom to have ludicrous magic in, or was there a different time for that? And now is the time of,
right.
like now is the time of the mentalist. So who knows? Who even knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't try to stand out, then you probably are just going to be remembered as the style of someone else. You know what I mean? Like, like every mentalist out there who doesn't bring something new to the table is just a wannabe Darren Brown. No offense. I don't think I really bring anything new to the table in terms of much of what I do, but but
it's also, it's also interesting, people who don't do this professionally. I wonder, we talk about, is it okay to take tricks? I wonder, is it okay to take a fitting persona? You know what I mean? Like, is it like, if people are doing, is that wrong? Is it wrong for an amateur to just, I was reading the Ascanio book on theory, and he was talking about how, like, if you're just starting in magic, potentially the best thing for you to do is copy. And just think, like, if you're just starting, you don't even know how to create. That doesn't really make sense to you, But yeah, anyways, that's how I think about that stuff. So it's interesting, and I'd love to know your opinions at home about, is mentalism in for a good reason? Who do you think is the next person who might change the type of magic that people are getting excited about? Because I don't know if it's just Darren Brown that's inspiring the mentalist, but is it Shin Lim? Are a lot of people going to be doing like silent card magic acts? Like, if he keeps advancing a lot in America's Got Talent, is that going to be the most in thing? Is the fact that we have things like Penn and Teller Fool Us actually going to just broaden the general, like, if everyone's copying someone, but everyone's a little bit different and they're mashing together a mentalist and also a guy in a clown costume and also the wrestler guy and also, a funny guy. And, are we going to get different characters and people out of this? Or who knows? So anyways, love to know your opinion. Anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
No, I got nothing for you people.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say is I'm going to try an interesting format for next episode to try to do something a little bit different. So I'd love to know what you guys think about it, if it's something that you want more of or less of. And yeah, other than that, keep sending in people that you think we should have on the podcast. We've had some good submissions recently. There's some people that we're going to start rooting for. And yeah, super cool, super exciting. Magic is life. About to go on tour. It's about to be crazy and hectic and bonker beans. And I'm going to spend a lot of time on tour doing some writing for you guys for maybe potentially that book that we were talking about. So that might be fun. So keep in contact with me this summer if you want me to answer your questions and potentially an upcoming book. And that's it for rambling. That was fun. Good episode 118. What do you think?
Yeah, we did all right. Better than expected.
I think so too. Better than expected. That's good. You low expectations. That's probably the best way to keep impressed with the world. Just expect nothing, and then everything exceeds our expectations. Anyways, thank you guys, and we'll see you all next Thursday.
Take care.